Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com. Hello, and thank you for being a listener. Before we get into the episode, I wanted to let you know about a special offer being given to the new warehouse listener. That's you. Mobile Robot Guide is offering 10% off just for you when you purchase the Warehouse Solutions Buyer's Guide. Just use promo code WarehousePod10 at mobilerobotguide.com. That's WarehousePod10. This is your comprehensive guide for all things autonomous mobile robots. That's WarehousePod10. And for more info, go to thenewwarehouse.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. Today, I'm going to be joined by Mark Wheeler. He is the Director of Supply Chain Solutions at Zebra Technologies. You may remember Mark. We've had him on the show a couple times now. Last time I spoke to Mark was actually at Modex, and we did some things with Zebra. Zebra actually, that's when everything with COVID happened, and I was able to catch up with Mark on the floor. But so much has changed since then. So we're going to catch up with Mark a little bit, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about how people are utilizing handheld devices, which Zebra is very well known for. How they're utilizing them and keeping workers safe in terms of keeping them sanitized and also helping to reduce the number of touch points during workflows and in the workplace, and how we can kind of deal with that. And then we're going to touch a little bit about Zebra's new food safety vision study at the end. So we're going to catch up with Mark and see what's been going on with Zebra. So Mark, welcome to the show. How are you?
Very well. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to be talking to you again. You've been on the show a couple times now. So like I mentioned before, last time we talked, we spoke at Modex. So let's talk to us a little bit, I guess, about, what has changed in terms of from Zebra's perspective and for Zebra's customers as well. What types of solutions have you seen maybe increased in popularity on your end, maybe being utilized more in the retail landscape as people are doing different kinds of ordering and things of that nature?
Well, I think, at the broader level, we've seen a very rapid growth in e-commerce fulfillment. I don't think that's news to anybody.
Right.
Some say 4 to 6 years of anticipated growth in some segments has happened in less than a year. So we have a lot of customers that are looking at pretty significant changes to their distribution infrastructure and kind of accelerating plans they may have already had in place for how they were going to scale up to meet that demand. And of course, mobility is a big part of that. At the same time, we've seen a need to not only provide a safe operation, but to do so in a way that communicates to the employees that they are safe, in fact, and that the employer is doing everything that they can to keep them so.
Definitely, yeah. And I think the spike in e-commerce is pretty crazy. And I think, we've seen a lot of things as well as kind of accelerating the use of different technologies for certain companies who maybe had it in the future plans, but now they're utilizing it currently instead because of the precedent set. So when you look at, a lot of Zebra's technologies and their products, a lot of these handheld devices that people are using, not only in warehousing and distribution, but also using in transportation, trucking, retail environments, all different kinds of settings. So talk to us a little bit about how how essential workers in the logistics space and distribution space, oftentimes there's multiple shifts, and handheld devices are usually not dedicated to just one person. They're usually utilized by more than one person between shifts. So how are people, and what is Zebra's recommendation for proper sanitization of these items in between shifts? How are you protecting people?
Yeah, one of the nice things, I guess, about that Zebra customers have going is that these devices were designed from the beginning to, they have a degree of sealing and protection and resiliency in terms of standing up to the solvents and cleaners. So each device has its own sort of recommendations for the right solvents to use and cleaners to use and cleaning agents, and they can be cleaned as frequently as the customer desires to do so. So that's kind of baked in to the solution. And for those that are using wearable products, so anything that is intended to be worn on the body, hygiene has always been a concern. So whether that's a wearable wrist-mounted device or a ring scanner or a headset, we've always designed products from the start such that anything that the user's actually wearing can be personalized and detached from the technology. We see that used very often with the wrist and more so with the headset. I imagine many ring scanner users don't even know that that's an option, but it is. The part that mounts on the hand or the finger is detachable and can be personalized, and so we would certainly recommend that.
Interesting, yeah, and I think the same thing. People probably did not think about these kinds of things prior to the pandemic. I know I've become super conscious about how many doorknobs I'm now touching. I never thought about it before. You look at these things, and so when you talk about, I guess, personalizing them, so what does that mean exactly? So that part of the ring scanner or the headset is removable, or how does that work?
Yeah, so you would, if you had, let's say you had one device that was shared across 3 shifts, and of course that device needs to go and be charged, so you might have spare batteries and those kinds of things. But what we would call the soft good for the wrist mount, for example, is something that, number one, is designed to be cleaned very frequently, but also is a relatively low-cost accessory that can be easily provided to every user. So they each have their own. They're not sharing that at all. They're only sharing the technology. The same with the headset. The part that is touching the user, is can be provided to each user. They can each have their own, and you can kind of attach the technology module in and the battery, and share it across those devices. Okay,
interesting. Yeah, so I'm curious, with that being said, with the personal accessories, I guess, another thing that's going on is, at least I've experienced in my own personal experiences, it's been difficult to get some labor as well. So you're utilizing, temporary workers. How easy is it to, I guess, procure these accessories, and in the case of maybe having high turnover during like a holiday season or something like that?
It's certainly an option to have extra devices. It's something that we see a lot in, of course, the retail and direct fulfillment space, where they have to scale up quickly. And they have to bring in new users and make them productive very, very quickly. And that's as big a concern this season as it's ever been, probably more so. Yeah. And so what we find there is the importance of having something that's easy and intuitive to learn and use. And you have to have something that a new user can come in and within a shift or a few days be productive and be competent in using the app. It's probably going to be order fulfillment or packing or what have you. And we've made great strides, along with the shift to the Android operating system has been the ability then to build touch-optimized user experiences, which are much more intuitive, which most new employees walking in the door are very familiar with how those work. And so whether that's a wearable or a handheld or vehicle mount, regardless, you have the opportunity to do that. And we see more and more warehouse management system providers and more customers going to the, through the effort to make sure that they do have user experiences that are intuitive, that are easy to use. And that's not only a benefit for the new employee, but it's a benefit for everybody to be more productive. And our recent vision survey, we found that it took on average between 4 and 8 weeks. This is our customers reporting to us, 4 to 8 weeks for a new employee to be fully productive with their current warehouse systems, and that's obviously a huge cost and particularly disruptive to ramping up for the holiday season.
Okay, all right, great. Yeah, great to know, because I think that is something, like you said, especially right now, it's we have the increased demand, like you mentioned before, the e-commerce huge spike right during the pandemic, and now going into the holiday season, you put that on top. It's going to be really interesting to see, and I think a lot of companies are trying to shift and prepare for that. I know where I'm at in New Jersey, there's like a huge concentration of distribution centers, and what I'm hearing and seeing is that it's really difficult to try and get some labor right now, especially with unemployment benefits as well and things of that nature. Talking to different staffing agencies that I'm connected with, it's been difficult. So when you get somebody, you want to try and get them productive as soon as possible, and also keep them on board as well. So I think that the ease of the use of the device helps to get them interested right away, and then also helps to keep them as well, because it's not frustrating or anything dealing with the system that's maybe keeping them from really being productive and doing what they want to do. So we talked about also increasing productivity, and so looking at increasing productivity, and one of the things that we often look at in distribution center and processes is increasing the flow of the work by reducing the number of touch points. And usually we do that, I guess, prior to the pandemic, in the idea of just increasing the efficiency of the process. But now we also want to look at reducing the number of touch points during the workflow, kind of to help to reduce the spread of contagion. So how, from your perspective, and I guess Zebra's perspective, how can we do that, and how have you seen maybe an example of that taking place?
Yeah, I think touch points is an important factor, and social distance, of course, as well, as something that we didn't really have to worry about in the past. In fact, if you talk to an industrial engineer, they were diligently trying to minimize distances traveled as being non-value add time, and one of the ways of driving efficiency is to close those up as much as possible. So we were putting people very close together as a matter of course, and now that's not desirable. So I think of it as a completely new and additional design constraint for operational design. Probably the clearest example of a change that somebody might make would be to go from order-based picking to zone-based picking, where the pickers are naturally going to stay in a particular area, and that's always been an option, but now it's got that added benefit of sort of building social distance into the process. I think that's one small example of what a lot of customers are looking to do at this point.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's totally taking, I guess, the way we were thinking about things before, and then we got to add this other level, like you mentioned, to think about it. So, it's pretty interesting. I think the zone picking is a good idea as well for social distancing, and then utilizing some kind of goods to person robot, if that's an option as well.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because we do see some of the AMR providers. We work closely with Locus and Fetch, for example,
right.
And it is a kind of a natural fit in terms of if you want to design a process where the travel time is taken out, you can sort of offload that relatively easily to an automated system at this point that wasn't an option a few years ago. So.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I'm curious, overall, our discussion about, keeping workers safe and sanitizing devices, what have you seen maybe has been the most effective example from one of your customers, and how they've kind of attacked this social distancing and sanitization, and how have they really been able to kind of control that?
Yeah, I think it's a comprehensive program. We've seen a tremendous amount of interest, for example, in our MotionWorks proximity offering. So this is something that we brought to market very quickly. Recognizing the need was there, recognizing that one of the other benefits of the Android devices is the use of Bluetooth low energy technology, and each device can be a beacon, but it can also be a reader. And you can infer distance, based on the signal strength, and there are a number of solutions out there that are doing that. But doing that in an enterprise environment, it does have some unique requirements to it. So we built that solution and made that available to our customers, and that was enthusiastically received. Let's say as a way of, again, not only it gives you the sort of the immediate feedback on social distancing. The employees that they're out there on the floor, they can get immediate feedback that, hey, you're in proximity to other employees, for whatever the time window is that you want to set. But it also gives the visibility over time to say, okay, where are these interactions happening? Can we change the workflow to reduce them? If we get a positive test, can we go back and contact trace through the operation and see who else might have been exposed? So that is one tool that I think can be pretty effective. And the other, some of the other things that can be done. And again, this is with the technology that's already out there on the floor for the most part. Is if you think about, when were employees, typically brought together in an enclosed space for an extended period of time, and what you often see, and it's a good practice, is the team huddle at the beginning of the shift. Where you bring everybody together and you kind of talk to them about what's going on and what to expect, and maybe some things to think about and improve on, and how we're doing on metrics and those kinds of things, and build that camaraderie, and that communication is very good. But you don't really want to bring everybody together if you don't have to. Why create that exposure? So you have communications capability on the devices. You can communicate to a single person or to the entire team, what have you, with voice or text or even video. So leverage that technology that you have to keep communicating, but maintain social distance. And the same thing can be extended to training. Every warehouse, every plant that you go visit or that you see is going to have a training room where they commonly have to train the employees on all kinds of topics, and you need a way to be able to do that. Well, you can do that on the device as well. So there's just some practices that I think are being embraced now. Some of those capabilities have always been there, but you've got the added sort of benefit to the business of the new environment.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. And I think that, I'm seeing that trend as I'm talking to different companies as well throughout the pandemic, is that they have this kind of technology that's in place, maybe not as widely embraced, but it had existed. And now with the pandemic, it's created like this whole new awareness and need for it. So it's pretty cool to see and hear how that's happening. I'm curious on the MotionWorks you're talking about when the employee gets too close, I guess, so it's in 6 feet, right, of another employee, what exactly happens on the device? It gives them some kind of alert, or how does that work?
Yeah, so you would have an audible alert that would happen based on the distance and the time.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I like that it gives you the visibility into the movements for the tracking as well. And obviously, if you have a positive case, I think that's huge to be able to notify your employees and give them a heads up just in case for their personal safety and health and that of others as well. So really, really good stuff there. So let's I guess switch gears a little bit. So recently, we talked about what's been going on with the pandemic and all this stuff, but recently Zebra released this food safety vision study, kind of talking about what consumers are thinking in terms of the importance of food safety and traceability. And from what I was reading from it, it seems like there's a bit of, I guess, contrast on the confidence that consumers have in companies being able to provide safe food and the traceability of it versus what the companies actually think that they're doing. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about, what is the food safety vision study? I guess first, tell us a little brief overview, and then we'll kind of get into, the distribution, transportation side of it.
Yeah, this was a major study and a little bit of a departure from most of our vision studies, where we typically focus on operational and IT executives and
right.
What their priorities are and what their challenges are. In this case, we included a survey of almost 5,000 consumers, as well as the industry decision makers, and what we're able to do then is compare and contrast the expectations or the perceptions from the consumers versus the industry professionals, and see where those align and where they don't align. And what we found was that this was a very important topic to consumers, and they don't have necessarily as much confidence as the industry executives do that in the safety of the food supply chain. And on the other hand, the folks from the industry execs do report that they understand it is important to consumers, and that they believe that providing consumers with that confidence would give them a competitive advantage. So it looks like an area where both the consumers and the industry recognize the need to do better and to do more than what we're doing today.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I like that to see the consumer versus, like you said, the industry decision maker kind of contrast. It's pretty interesting. So how can, I guess when we talk about food safety and traceability, what exactly are we talking about there in terms of that?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, so there are a number of components to it, depending on where you are in the supply chain. A lot of people like to talk about from farm to fork, right. Which is what we need to get to. And literally, I mean, there are solutions out there that can track when a particular crate was harvested, with a GPS tag and a timestamp, exactly when and where this crate was harvested. And if you have a quality problem or a safety problem, as it's being processed, then you can perhaps isolate, the adjacent harvested product. I mean, that is the ideal, to be able to get to that level of specificity. Because right now, when we do it, the industry is regulated, and there's a lot of testing, and there are recalls. And one of the challenges is really affecting those recalls in a way that not only solves the problem, but solves the problem without creating tremendous collateral damage. When you have to recall an entire product from an entire industry, when it was really just perhaps one field, that had the safety problem, but there's no way to isolate it. That is an industry challenge, and it undermines consumer confidence, and it does create real safety challenges. So at the mobile edge standpoint, it really comes down to, for the most part, barcoding or RFID. We have some really powerful tools with the GS1 standards to leverage barcoding to be able to carry a lot of extended item data along with the product throughout the supply chain. That same data can be represented in RFID, of course, and with RFID, they have the ability to capture that data at any point in the process without investing labor to go and do that, or the concern about misreads, if something simply isn't read. So we've got the basic edge technology We've got some very powerful tools to do that. And certain specific industries where you have more of a closed supply chain have been able to take this very far. They've really been able to drive traceability through that. It's just when you have thousands of farms supplying a processing plant that's now going to generate hundreds of products that are going to go out into the supply chain, you can see the complexity multiplies very quickly, and it is a challenge to track and trace everything through that. The other side of it is really cold chain compliance, and the requirement that for this product to remain safe, it has to remain within a certain temperature range, whether that's freezer, chilled, what have you. And if it is exposed to a high temperature, how do you know that? And how do you correct it in real time or tag that for further investigation or what have you. And again, we've got some really powerful tools there. Zebra, as you may know, acquired a company called TempTime a couple years back, and they just have some fantastic products, both active and increasingly passive tools that are very low cost and can be applied down at a product level and can give you that information that you need about cold chain compliance. So that is really very significant. And then on the food production side, whether that's in a restaurant environment or at an industrial scale, of course you have the hot chain requirements. You have to be able to know that you're in compliance as it's being processed as well. And we've got a lot of solutions around that too. So the basic technology is there. The basic enabling technologies are there. I think what the survey really highlighted is the importance not only to the consumer but to the industry to kind of up our game and up our performance level around food safety and make sure that we're not only executing on that, but we're communicating that to the market.
Definitely, yeah, and I think it was really interesting to see the numbers and like we talked about the little contrast there between the consumer and industry decision makers. So from a technology standpoint, like you said, it sounds like we have the technology. It just needs to be, I guess, maybe a little more widely utilized. So how, from like a distribution and transportation side of the supply chain, how do you think kind of we embrace the technology a little more, or what type of technology do you think will maybe be injected more into that process side of things, and how will it kind of change as we try to become more safe in our food handling and also the traceability?
Yeah, there are a number of specialty providers that are focused on different segments, and one of the enabling technologies that I didn't mention is cloud. The ability to capture data and move it to the cloud so that it can be shared across supply chain partners. And we have these aggregating solutions that are doing a good job of that within specific industry segments. One of the challenges is standards. And as I said, the GS1 standards I think are comprehensive. And once the data elements have been identified, the formatting and the implementation of the label is standardized. And you can carry 10, 15 data fields along that label, in a 2D barcode at very little cost to the producer. One of the challenges in the past, particularly with RFID, has been this disassociation between the cost of applying the tags and the benefits, which are downstream and came to other players. So the manufacturers would be reticent to invest and spend and then for the benefit to be realized downstream in the wholesale and retail channel. But some of the passive technologies that we have today, first of all, the passive tag costs for RFID are way down, due to the broad adoption at on the retail side. They've driven tag costs quite low. The new passive technologies for temperature tracking that can be combined with a barcode label are very powerful and again take some of the cost out. So again, what we've seen is, I think, standards is an important part of bringing this to the wide stream. We've seen the power players. We talked about how the survey highlighted how consumers, this is very important to consumers, and their confidence in the current systems are not that high. So that is both a risk and an opportunity for the major brands that are consumer facing to say, look, we are doing this right, and you can buy and consume our product with confidence. Mm-hmm. And those players that are customer facing are in a very powerful position to drive adoption through the industry and to drive convergence on these standards. And I think that's really important. And even the small players, the small processors, the small food producers can economically adopt some of these edge technologies that will enable the entire supply chain.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think that it'll be interesting to see as, since this study, I'm sure is going to create some awareness in the marketplace and, amongst companies, it would be interesting to see how companies react and what they're doing in terms of adopting more of the technology that's available. And then also maybe how technology is going to advance a little more in the future as well. So it'll be interesting to see, I guess, the numbers in a couple years and see what the change might be. So definitely a really interesting study, and we'll link to it at thenewwarehouse.com. So I definitely recommend listeners to check that out as well. So Mark, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to talk to you. How can people find out more information about Zebra?
Well, the best places to go would be zebra.com, and I think we've done a really nice job of putting very useful information out there at a solution level and a technology level.
Okay, great. And is there, on zebra.com, is there any place to find information on proper sanitization of your devices?
Yes, there is. And the operator's manual, for each device has all that in detail.
Okay, great. And we'll definitely link to that information as well. So, Mark, thank you so much for being on today's show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.